This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. It's 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai. The best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. They go over every vehicle on the lot because they're the pros, and the service department terrific. Quick lane inspections, routine difficult. They handle it all at Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Kelly Mazzani returns to Pennsylvania. Tanisha Wright, the new head coach of the Lady Lion basketball team, is calling upon her teammate in the early 2000s to join her on the staff. Kelly, of course, did a great job with Bucknell for years. Then went to Georgetown for 3 years, is now coming back as an assistant coach with the Lady Lion basketball program. So great news there, getting her home along with Tanisha Wright at the same time for the women's basketball program here at Penn State. Big move. Big move. And it's a move that I think a lot of people around here are thrilled about. So, NFL Draft All-Film Team. Really? The All-Film Team, huh? Great. Can't wait to read that article. Who's the winner of the All-Film Team? The Phillies and the Nationals playing over an Eagle 107. That's scoreless in the top of the first. Just underway there. The Phillies off to a 2-3 start. Nats off to a 3-2 start. And White Sox and Marlins are playing too. Ooh, talk about luck! What a great day this is. Oh, goody. Oh, wow. What do we do now? And Christopher Sanchez on the mound for the Phillies today. So there's the story there. In fact, there's a lot of afternoon action in the majors today. It may be a Wednesday, but my goodness, they're treating it as if I guess it's getaway day. Braves, A's, 2-0. Braves, bottom of the third. Orioles at Camden leading it over the Rangers, 2-0, top of the third. The Pirates have jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the Reds in the bottom of the second. I know Paul Skeens is pitching today. I just want to check and make sure and see if O'Neill Cruz is in the lineup. And he is. He's in center field, and he's hit a 3-run homer. I think he's trying to make up for what he did on opening day. Skeens is like, you killed me, man. You killed me out there. Well, he's hit a 3-run homer. Good for him. And Skeens, after throwing 37 pitches in the opening game and not getting 2 outs, has thrown 27 pitches to get 5 outs so far. It's a little bit more like Paul Skeens, 3 strikeouts and a walk so far. And let's see, he doesn't have to marquee to center fielder out there hurting him today. And the Mets and the Cardinals are in a rain delay in St. Louis. Got a lot of rain in the Midwest today. So that game's in a rain delay in St. Louis. And as long as Ollie Marvel's there, I'll always follow what the Cardinals are doing. Ollie managed for 2 years here with the Spikes. After a 3-2 start. Not bad. Okay. The NIT is down to 4 teams, and they're playing in Indianapolis. And so everybody's in Indy this week. And it used to be they would play at Madison Square Garden Tuesday, Thursday. 4 teams play Tuesday, 2 winners play Thursday. But now they're going to play it, the 4 teams, tomorrow. And then play the championship game Sunday. Now, tomorrow's games will be at Hinkle Fieldhouse, which is where they film Hoosiers, the home of Butler. And then the championship game is actually Sunday night on ESPN2 at Gamebridge, where the Pacers play, that's as fine a basketball arena as I've been in. I mean, as a basketball arena, just made for basketball, Gamebridge is the best I've been in, or it's made for basketball. I've been in a lot of great arenas, but that one's just made for hoops. And it's like, wow, is a pure basketball arena? Not bad. Not bad. It's like it's exceptional. But just in case you're wondering who the heck is in the NIT, it's New Mexico against Tulsa tomorrow night at 7. New Mexico's 26-10. Tulsa's 29-7. And Illinois State against Auburn. Everybody kept talking about Auburn down the stretch. Auburn, Miami of Ohio, Auburn. Auburn didn't make it. Auburn, number 1 seed, NIT, they made it. Illinois State's 23-12. Auburn is 20-16. That's 9:30 tomorrow. Moving it away, and this may have been a Madison Square Garden issue. I don't know whose issue it was, but moving it away from Madison Square Garden is, for the NIT, one of the worst moves they could have made. There was something about bringing the tournament to the Garden, and it's probably true. I may have announced more NIT games than anybody out there. Just because, just the way the program's been. I mean, I've announced 9 NITs, and 6 of them in 6 quote Final Fours in the Garden. I think I've announced something like 34 NIT games in my career, some number like that. And there's just something about, you're not in the NCAA tournament, so you're not, right? It's the equivalent of going to the Citrus Bowl, the Outback Bowl, the Alamo Bowl. Right? I can't equate it to the Pinstripe Bowl. I can't. But I'm talking about, it's in college football. What are the best non-playoff bowls available? And In college football, I would say it would be the Citrus Bowl, probably the Outback Bowl, and the Alamo Bowl are the best ones I've been to where it was not a playoff. We're like, wow, okay. Really well done, great atmosphere, great deal, everything about it. I mean, I think there's anywhere else I've been for college football that would equate to that. But it's like it's not a playoff bowl. The NIT's not a playoff game, but you get a lot out of it. And there's nothing like you win the quarterfinal and you go to New York and you stay at the Marriott Marquis. It was always at the Marriott Marquis, always. Stay at the Marriott Marquis. You play in the Garden. I was interviewed, I want to say this had to be back in December. And one of the questions I was asked is for a podcast. And one of the questions I was asked is, where's the best places, not at, in other words, don't include Penn State. Where are the best places? Like meant something to me where I broadcast the game. And I said, well, that's easy. I said the Rose Bowl in football and Madison Square Garden in basketball. It doesn't mean that Madison Square Garden's the greatest arena and this. Just something about it that's just between NITs, Big Ten tournament. I did one of those there, an ECAC holiday festival I've done in there, plus some other random regular season games like Georgia Tech, St. John's, Michigan. Right? I mean, I've done, I think, at least 20, 21 games in the Garden in my career. There's just something about it that, like, it's the Garden. And the NIT moving away from that. Now, again, it could have been Dolan. I mean, Dolan runs the darn thing. I mean, it could have been him. I don't know. Maybe they couldn't reach an agreement, whatever. I don't know. That part I can't. I'm not sure why it is, but like having it in Indianapolis. Okay. It's one thing to put the Final Four in Indianapolis. Okay. Because they do that every 5 years, because that is part of the agreement to have the NCAA headquarters in Indianapolis. They get the Final Four every 5 years. So, I mean, is it the biggest thing going, the NIT? No, of course not. But losing the Madison Square Garden part, I think, has lessened it. It's just me. And I haven't done an NIT deal since 2018. And, man, I did a lot of Garden games that year. Whew. I think I did 5 Madison Square Garden games in the month of March alone. I did 3 Big Ten tournament games in there because Penn State reached the Big Ten semifinals that year and then went back and won the NIT. It's a pretty good March. They went 4-1 in the Garden in that March that year. All right. We're going to have Brian Bush on, by the way. We're going to get back to the NCAA tournament. The play-by-play voice of Michigan. One of the truly outstanding young announcers out there. It was just a great guy. I'm so happy for all the Bryans. Brian Jeffries of Arizona, Brian Barnard, whom we had on yesterday from Illinois, now Brian Bush today from Michigan. We'll hear from him at 2:05. And look, these guys are fitting us into their schedules because all of them are, they're getting bombarded with requests left and right. to be on their shows here, there, and everywhere. And they, when I got a hold of each of them, Brian Barnhart and Brian Bush right away said yes, which was just great. So there was an article written about, everybody's writing articles about all these hypotheticals, and there was a guy named Ben Koo who wrote an article on best fit for, I guess, happiness and good fit score about TV. And interesting. So, let's see. And he took some of the biggest events. And what they did was they polled sporting, they did this as a poll of sports fans. And there are certain events that have been on a network for a long period of time. So they said they had over 2,000 votes. And they took happiness and good fit scores out of 10. So 2,000 votes. They have more than 2,000. So the Masters on CBS, happiness, good fit, 8.6. Pretty good. They said 54.5% of the voters gave the Masters on CBS a perfect score of 10. Low scores were uncommon. They get the Masters, by the way, in CBS are 1-year contracts. It's not a multi-year deal. Every year they have to bid for it to do it. And they've had it every year since 1956. The next one was the NCAA tournament on CBS in conjunction with Turner Sports. Happiness, 8.26, really good. CBS has had it since '82. Started in 2011 with Turner. And people are very happy with where it is. A third of the readers gave like 36.6% perfect scores of 10. 75s, almost 76% of voters gave the men's tournament 8, 9, or 10. Pretty good. The Olympics on NBC. Happiness, good fit score, 8.06, really good. 53% gave NBC's broadcast of the Olympics a score of 9 or 10. Pretty good. Only 8.5 had scores as low as 1 to 4. The World Series on Fox. Now it gets to be a little dicier. Happiness, good fit score, 6.33. Fox deal, by the way, runs through 2028. They said very like mid-tier. They said they thought, they said a lot of scores were between 6.33 and 6.29. 13% gave Fox World Series coverage a 10. 8.2% gave the World Series a score of 1. Okay. Scoring was balanced. Most common grades were 8, 7, and 6. Somebody wrote, Fox isn't terrible at broadcasting the World Series, but it's begun to feel stale. Then somebody else wrote, I personally love the World Series on Fox. And others are saying, hey, look, I hope it stays with Fox. NCAA Women's Tournament on ESPN. Happiness, good fit, 6.33. They've had it since 96, and they have it through 2032. Most common score was 5, 21%. Now, only 18.6% had it 1 through 4, but the most common number was 5. Somebody wrote that the women's tournament should be given more attention. At least ABC should air more games instead of ESPN. College football playoff on ESPN, only 6.29. It was actually number 5. Okay. No voting opinion received under 5% of the total vote. No voting opinion received over 16% of the vote. The most common answer was a healthy 8. Least common was 4. My only problem with, and I realize that this is a money thing. My biggest complaint about the college football playoff is, like, they've done this with Monday Night Football. Combine it and put it on ESPN and ABC. I think you'd see the rating number go through the roof if you let ABC get the combo. There are 2 others that got very low grades. I mean, college football playoff, the grade's fine. But we got 2 that are under 5. We'll tell you about that next half hour. Brian Bush coming in at 2:05. Play-by-play voice of Michigan basketball here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. Some of our insurance needs. And we don't just have an insurance need. I mean, welcome to adulthood. You have multiple insurance needs. I need pros. So I go to the pros. Purdy Insurance. Organize everything. And not only that, they do a great job of finding ways to save you money while updating your insurance for you. They'll flag things. They'll say, hey, look, they may be an increasing cost here or there. You got to, in other words, they're on top of it. That's what I need. I need somebody on top of it. And that is Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. So we were talking about the happiness. People, they had over 2,000 people in this poll. Happy with the Masters on CBS, yes. Happy with the NCAA tournament on CBS and Turner Sports, yes. Happy with the Olympics on NBC, yes. World Series on Fox, a little bit mixed, but relatively happy. Women's basketball tournament on ESPN, a little bit mixed, but, relatively happy. College football playoff on ESPN, yeah, again, relatively happy. Some people think they shill too much for the SEC, but that's fine. Okay? Now we're going to get into the 2 that are a little shaky with the public. And here's the 2 that are a little shaky with the public. I'm talking about long-term fits here. And one's coming up. The World Cup on Fox. Happiness, good fit score. This is out of 10. 4.64. Not good. Fox first started doing the World Cup in 2018. So they've now broadcast the World Cup for the men since 2018. They broadcast the last 3 Women's World Cups going back to 2015. Women's World Cup's going to Netflix in 2027. And by the way, the World Cup on Fox, the one coming up, that's it. It's up for bid after this. So, according to the poll, the World Cup on Fox is one of 2 properties that landed in the 3rd tier, where voters found more wrong with the broadcast than they found positives. Fox's showing with the World Cup was dragged down by 1 being the most common score. That's not good. Okay. 38.5% gave Fox's production of the World Cup 1 through 3. 19.5% gave it a 1. Now, there's 17.8% of fans that gave the World Cup on Fox a score of 8 to 10. But they were routed by the 38.5% that said, no, 1 to 3. Somebody said they don't treat the viewers as sophisticated soccer fans. They don't like Leslie Lawless. They don't like him at all, I guess. It's not, you know. And Alexi Lawless is, they think there's just too much of it. I don't know. This comment, Fox's World Cup coverage is aimed at the lowest common denominator. Rather than teaching the game or discussing talks, Fox talks down in a condescending way to its audience. I mean, these are the comments they got. I mean, there was a lot of that about, like, they talked down to it. Oh, well. And it was interesting. I think this was a positive. Let's see here. Fox and the World Cup have just never been a good fit. They force U.S.-based commentators into the booth during games rather than taking advantage of some of the amazing talent both NBC and CBS use for European coverage. A little bit of Alexi Lawless goes a very long way. So the biggest mismatch of talent and event in sports. I remember when Fox started this thing, the original broadcaster was going to be Gus Johnson, and they changed from that. And then there's the last one, the one that went last. And this is, again, these are long-time properties, okay? The one that finished last was, the NBA Finals on ESPN ABC. Score Fit Happiness, 4.5. ESPN ABC took over the NBA Finals starting in 2003. They took it from NBC. Coming in last place was the NBA Finals, thanks to the most common score being a 1. 20.7% of the vote, a 1. .3% of the voters gave the NBA Finals on ESPN ABC a 2 to 4 score. Only a quarter of the voters gave the NBA Finals 10, 9, 8, or 7. Another quarter had a middling of 5 to 6. The NBA Finals received the most comments, as often as they received comments in this poll on the World Cup. There were twice as many on the NBA. Now, I can tell you right now who came out of it just fine, and he should have, Mike Breen. Comments. The NBA and ESPN is absolutely terrible. I'm not sure their analysts actually like basketball. Mike Breen's a pro. But ABC's overall coverage has fallen off since they got rid of Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. The NBA Finals need to move off ESPN. Clearly the third best platform for NBA games behind NBC and Amazon Prime. They should at least rotate it every few years. Mike Breen is carrying a bad broadcasting crew. The network never should have dumped Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. The NBA Finals would have been seen in a greater light on NBC. The ESPN booth has failed to gain traction since the departure of Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, with Mike Breen being the only person who gives it any sort of big game feel. NBA Finals could definitely switch from ESPN to NBC. For ESPN, the game has always felt like a sideshow. NBA renewing with ABC ESPN was so disappointing. The finals have not felt like the finals for several years and would be better elsewhere. Next, here's this comment. What ESPN has done to the NBA Finals and its NBA coverage in general is an absolute joke. Signature championship events in any event should have big game feel and make the viewers feel like they are there. Starting lineups with a PA announcer. National anthem should be something the network prioritizes from the beginning, not something to get shamed into sort of caring about halfway through. Most fans aren't watching the hour-long pregame show. True. When the actual event broadcast starts, have the game broadcasters set it up in a way that even casual fans can understand. NBA on NBC was great back in the day. They'd come on site with the announcers, highlight a key player or a matchup for both teams, show the starting lineups, and away we go. We don't need a panel of 5 washed-up players trying to out-hot-take each other the entire time. Less is more. Wow. One thing that you will find that happens not just in this business. It happens a lot in this business. I'm talking about at the primary network level. You can outthink yourself. I have no idea whatsoever what the thought process was behind not renewing Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. I never understood that. I thought those 3 guys worked beautifully together. And look, and it is a full disclosure, I worked 5, 6 games, something like that in my career with Doris Burke, and I think the world of her. So it's not that. They already had that. They already had something that was working. Why mess with something that's working? I mean, you can't be an executive that walks in and goes, I'm going to put my own imprint on the thing. Like, what are you doing? Sometimes the old saying, sometimes the best trade you make in sports is the one you don't make. And you outthink yourself. Sunday Night Baseball, John Miller, Joe Morgan. What are you doing changing those guys out? And by the way, Dan Schulman, when he was doing it, was outstanding. So, that wouldn't be an anti-Dan Schulman comment. Not a million years from me. But John Miller and Joe Morgan, we're going to change it up. We feel like it's getting stale. Like, just stop thinking. Okay? When you've got something good that's going, just let it go. Keep going with it. I'm going to put my own imprint on it. Oh, good luck to you on that. And they're right about like trying to. ESPN had to bring over Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley. They had to because ESPN is lousy. Yeah, at pro pregame shows. Like NFL Countdown? No. What they do with Major League Baseball? No. What they do with the NHL? TNT's better. The NBA's been the worst until they brought those guys in. But it is, college game day is different. Too long. But as I've said before, if I'm running ESPN and I'm looking at the sales department, they're saying, hey, it's 2 hours right now. We can go to 3. Well, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time on a Saturday, I can sell all these ads that I wouldn't be able to sell around another sports center. Of course I'd say, hey, okay, let's do it. But it doesn't mean the show's better. College basketball game day is pretty good. But as you know, over the years, all the pregame stuff, I wait till the game comes up now. I just don't. It's just not there for me anymore. That's just me. You may love it. I just don't. It's just like, okay. But I thought those were interesting comments made by people about how they feel about the sports that they see on TV. So, very interesting. This is an interesting day. At least it has a chance to be an interesting day. Well, when I say it has a chance to be an interesting day, we'll find out. Because Artemis 2 is sitting on the launch pad. And I think they're sending the astronauts over to it now. And it's the first time that we're going to launch a rocket to the moon in 50 years. Wow. Okay. How about that? Amazing. So there's 4 astronauts. And they as a kid, I loved the space program. Oh, I didn't really know a lot. I had to read up on the Mercury program. Even though I'm trying to think, how old was I when Alan Shepard went up? I think I was 3, something like that. So I didn't know anything about it, But when they started the Gemini program, oh boy, I was older. And I'm like, I'd follow every launch. And then Apollo, whoa, okay. That's why, when you talk about the people you get a chance to interview in your lifetime, I'll never forget interviewing Jim Lovell, who went into space 4 times, including Apollo 8, which is essentially the model for what they're going to do this time. And, of course, the famous Apollo 13. And interviewing him was one-on-one was one of the great. Love that. But I'll never forget doing a game at Purdue. And Purdue is where they have the Neil Armstrong Hall of Engineering. I always tell everybody the 2 most powerful turns I've ever been through in a car or you make a left at the Neil Armstrong Hall of Engineering, and then you make a right onto John Wooden Drive. It's not bad. Okay, a couple big time names there. What the heck? And so Penn State's playing Purdue, and they've had a lot of astronauts come out of their program there. So they're introducing the astronauts at halftime, and they're running the width of the field down the 50-yard line. So they start on the far side where I could see it, and they run toward us. And so the next to last guy that they introduce is Gene Cernan, who went to Purdue. The next to last guy, Gene Cernan, the last man to walk on the moon. Place goes insane. I'm like, this is really cool. Which then leads them to the last man they introduce. And that's the first man to walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong. I'm sitting up in the booth. And I'm sitting like, this is the greatest. And Armstrong always, and Gene Cernan was great. He runs down, waves, the whole deal. Armstrong, when he was at Purdue, was in the band. And as you know, Purdue, their band has the big drum. Armstrong also always was rather a stoic, staid guy in public. I mean, you can't do what he did in space because on Gemini, I'm trying to think, Gemini 8 maybe, whatever it was, they got it, they in a docking, they spun out of control, and because he was so calm, cool, and collected, he saved it. Same thing when he's landing on the moon, right? The computer's like, what? Okay, so he goes manual, and he saves it. Okay, that's just because he's calm, cool, collected. That's always been his public persona as well, calm, cool, collected. He goes running down the 50-yard line right after they introduce Gene Cernan, and he's throwing his fist in the air, pumping in the air. I'm like going, wow, look at this. And then he grabs the big drumstick and goes up, starts banging the big drum. I go, this is the coolest thing going. Plus, Penn State won the game. But it was cool. It was really cool. So the Artemis 2 goes up. I think 6:24 is the launch time. And the last I saw, I guess they're still on track to do it. So, yeah. I mean, so that's, what we're seeing. They're still on track to do it today. So good news. All right. I know it's not sports, but I just thought it was neat. So, yeah. But I was, as a kid, I grew up. The space program was like really great. I remember I went down to speak 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, I know it was 2 years ago. I went down to speak in Jacksonville. It was a dinner in Jacksonville on a Friday night, and it was a lunch in Daytona on a Saturday. Figured the two groups wanted to combine into one. So I rented a car. And I speak to the group in Jacksonville on Friday night. They were a tremendous group. I really liked them a lot. And then I went down to Daytona and did the luncheon, and another great group. It was right there. They did it at the Chart House on the water, which was really great. Right. And then, because I had the car when the luncheon was over, I drove down to Cape Canaveral. I'd never been there before. I thought I wanted to see it. Right. And it turns out because the luncheon ran longer, which is, I was down, that was the reason I was there, so it doesn't matter if it ran longer. But the one thing I wanted to is they have a bus that takes you out to the launch pads, and I missed it by 30 minutes. But I was able to tour everything else. I could see the launch pad. I mean, I could see it, but they actually take you out there, and I really wanted to do that. But that was, for me personally, it may not be your cup of tea. I thought it was pretty cool. I was able to get into the building. They had the Space Shuttle Atlantis there, toured that. It was, So, yeah, I grew up loving that stuff. So seeing this today, I think this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. I don't know how many days they're supposed to be up there. I have no idea. So, if I recall correctly, it took like 3 to 4 days to get to the moon. Something like that. Kind of like the suit trying to get to Benton. Takes about 3 or 4 days. Same thing. No difference. No? Not the right thing to say? We're going to talk about the Final Four coming up. The Final Four is around Easter weekend, this being, by the way, the first day of Passover. And then, of course, on Saturday, the Final Four will take place. NIT title games on Easter Sunday. Then Monday will be the title game. Question is, will Illinois or Michigan or maybe both make it? We talked to Illinois play-by-play voice Brian Barnhart yesterday. Today we'll go to another member of our Big Ten brethren, Brian Bush, the terrific play-by-play voice of Michigan basketball. I'm going to have him on in the next half hour to talk about the great season that they've had and the matchup with Arizona. Illinois gets UConn. And Illinois-UConn is the first game. Arizona-Michigan will be the second game coming up on Saturday. At Lucas Oil Stadium. And again, and Illinois-UConn, by the way, is at 6:09. This is all going to be on TBS and True TV. Michigan-Arizona is the nightcap. Now, we know on I-74, they're going to be in droves going to Lucas Oil Stadium. But take my word, the trip from Ann Arbor to Indianapolis is also not exactly what you would call a long trip. Brian Bush, next half hour, talking about Michigan-Arizona in the Final Four at Lucas Oil Stadium. This half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.